Good evening. Time having arrived, I call the Safety, Security, Transportation Subcommittee meeting to order. The agenda reads as follows. Security update at Brockton High School. And item 2, any other business. So are you taking
Yep.
the security update?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, and let me just begin by saying Mr. Thomas is not here this evening because of some very nice news. He's actually attending, his daughter is being inducted into the National Honor Society tonight, so he gets to spend a really wonderful evening. And we are also spending a wonderful evening with all of you. I didn't want to imply that we weren't. Anyway, let me start by giving you an overview, and then I'm going to turn it to Cindy Burns, because she'll fill in the details. Here's what we thought we'd do, just to give you an overview of how we'll present this. We're going to start with an update on what's been happening at Brockton High, particularly around the leadership, on the metal detectors, on the bags, and on really a new focus for the school, which Cindy will talk about. And then part 2, we'll give you an update on the incident with Zavarian. So, and that should wrap up both. So before I turn it to Cindy, I just want to share a quick personal story about when I arrived at the school the other day. You should all be really proud and pleased that the tone has really shifted to a really positive atmosphere right now. And given the tough beginning that everybody had, it just is, and I was just there the other day walking around with Cindy and the kids, and it just sort of took me back. It's like a nice atmosphere is coming back, and there's still work to be done. I'm not trying to say there isn't, but this is what I have to tell you. You'll smile. It made me smile from the parking lot. I arrived just as Cindy was going on the PA for the morning announcements. And we always used to make a big deal about that, very upbeat, get the kids started, thinking about the pride of the school. And just as I was stepping out of my car, I heard Miss Burns begin the announcement, and I heard, "Good morning, Brockton High, Brockton Boxers, this is Miss Burns, and I want to give some shout-outs for all the positive, wonderful work that's going on at Brockton High." So I'm walking in and I'm listening, and she started and she said, she named a couple of things, and she said, "And a special shout out to the Horticultural Society or Club." I'm thinking, gosh, I don't remember she said, "And they prepared some wonderful meals. In fact, I never knew kale tasted that good." And she said, and then she finished the announcement by saying, "I want you all to know that there's great, wonderful things happening in Boxer Country every single day." And that's what I think everybody should be pleased with. It's that's the tone that we want to have. So it really is, I think, a shift to a very positive message. Everybody's trying to get on message with that. So let me turn it to Cindy, because she's going to give you some specifics about leadership, metal detectors, update on the bags, and a focus on the positive. And then we'll pick up with Zavarian.
Cindy, could I jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I just got a roll call.
Oh, sorry, Miss.
I know it's a little out of order, but
That's okay.
Tim Sullivan, Chair, is here. Tony Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Joyce Azak.
Here.
We are 100%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. It was actually a class, and they were doing a test kitchen, and they were cooking with food that they grow in their own garden out, and they also dedicate and donate whatever is left over to the community and people in need. So I am trying very hard to get a positive message out each and every day that great things happen at Brockton High, and it is sometimes the sports teams, but I really want to get into what goes on in class and to the clubs, because we need kids involved in good and positive things. So for that end, Mr. Guillotot and I, the assistant principal, have been walking around. We're in every class. We've been visiting with the clubs. We've been talking with the kids about a variety of issues. We want to be visible, and we want to be present, and we want to talk about positivity. So that's been going really well. We've been reading our announcements in multiple languages, so we involve every single student. We have our 3 main languages, but on Friday we have a young lady who's coming to translate into Vietnamese. So we're going to invite all students in all languages to be part of the Brockton community. So that was a really important priority item for me. Working with Mr. Guillotot and with Ms. Kopp and the entire admin team, we've been working and focusing on those priority areas identified by the district. the 3 focus areas of effective instruction, reading and writing actively, and positive relationships. So my first meeting with the entire faculty was about how literacy is the linchpin between all the things that we want to do. If you want to be effective teachers, if you want to have positive relationships, that writing piece, that literacy piece is the key for us to focus on. So that is coming from me, it is coming from the deans, the assistants, the department heads, from this COP, all of us together working on that goal. We've been meeting with our excellence team, and many of them have come to speak to you about issues going on in the high school, and that is a very data-driven exercise. So we are looking very closely at many different data points to really inform where we want to go. So I don't want to just go in there and scattershot what I think might need to be done. I really want to look closely at data, and I want to work closely with those people that have come before you and brought things to your attention that this is not, this isn't right, or this doesn't feel good, or, this is a problem. So I want to address that. So that's part of me being visible and really being accountable. So we look at the data to be accountable, and I am out and talking to people to be visible. And I very much apologize. I have a son at home who's not quite sure, the protocols for calling mom when she's at a meeting. So I will kind of finish up with the leadership part by saying that, working with the department heads, we've identified things that the teachers are concerned about, because many teachers have come before you to talk about things. And the message there is also one of positivity. I have to be out with them and say, we are going to get better, we are going to get better, things are improving. So I've talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them do feel that, hey, things feel better. They seem to have a little bit of, okay, there's a plan. And that's the point. We're going to look at the data, we're going to examine what we can, where things are needing improvement, where we're doing well, because things are going well in the building. And when I walk around, I want you to know this, there's things going on in the hall that we're trying to deal with behaviors, but when you go into a classroom, there's instruction going on, and the teachers do report that. So that's an important thing to hear, that for all of these kind of tumultuous beginning, kids want to learn, kids are happy to learn, they're happy to be back at school, and they're learning in the classrooms. But we need to do clearly some interventions, and I'm going to truly have a problem with this young man soon. So that's really where we're going, okay, in terms of leadership. And then the metal detectors, I want to touch on that, because I think that I've gotten very many positive responses to that, and then I've also gotten, of course, people that are. I am trying to stop this from happening. I apologize. Let me just shut that off. Okay, now I should be done. So in terms of the metal detectors, I will just say right off the bat, that was a rough start, and that has to be acknowledged. And it was a rough start largely because we are not the TSA. We are teachers, we are educators, and we are trying to do our best for people to be safe. And one of the things that I think the faculty did appreciate, and that the faculty was worried about, and many parents that I spoke about were worried about as well, is that when incidents happened, we had 2 issues with guns right in a row, that there would be a third. And that the third would be worse, because we know that when people see things, they copycat. And when they copycat, that's when something really bad can happen. So I think, the way that we put that in and we worked with it, it sent a strong message that safety is really where we are, most concerned. That is my most important job as the principal, to be sure that the building is safe. And I think that message got out. By day 2, kids were in class by 8:15. By the 3rd day we used it, they were in class on time. So it was a learning process, it was a learning curve. It was something that we felt at the time that we definitely needed to send that strong message. And now we're into a deterrence mode, because I think where we're going to go with this now is, and the message went out to families, that we are going to look at this as something that we do at random times and random days, and that will create that deterrence mode. But I think we all know that putting a metal detector at a door will not make the school safe 100%. Nobody can guarantee that. What does make a school safe is when kids feel like they belong. And when they feel like they belong and that there are positive interventions in place, that is what makes the school safe. So these 2 things working in combination are what we hope will make the school safe. And then as we kind of get things back on a more even keel, then we will move forward and make a determination, with your guidance and with your approval about where we go next. But I've had as many people that have said, I'm really not happy with this. I've had just as many say thank you, because kids are walking around telling me they did not feel safe. So that's an important thing. And these are difficult times, and these are difficult issues. I am happy to take on that role. Being principal of Brockton High is a very front-facing position, and I'm happy to take that on, and I explain that to people. But we do need to keep the building safe and keep kids safe. So we'll keep doing that, but in terms of the leadership and the metal detectors, as leaders, our job is to create those interventions, to look at that data, and to make sure that we're putting the right resources in place to help our kids be the best they can in school. So in terms of positive, that's kind of the positive message that we have. There are some things that we need to do in this school. So we are working right now to create more clubs for kids to be involved in. We are working right now to give kids voice in the school. So different student council organizations are being formed. One of them is a bilingual student union, so our bilingual students can come forward and talk about what they might need in particular. All of the clubs have a voice. We're going to be into every single club that we can get in, because those are the kids that are active and involved, and they feel like they haven't been heard. So every day when I say great things are happening at Brockton High, those are the great things that are happening at Brockton High. And that's not a PR stunt. That is, sometimes the loudest and the angriest people, they get the attention. The spotlight goes there. They are thousands and thousands of kids at Brockton High who come every day, and they do great work, and they volunteer for their community, and they're involved, and they're getting themselves ready for the next chapter in their life, whether that be college or work or military. So they're doing those great things each and every day, and that is what we all as a community need to focus on and remember, because I know these things make us afraid. Metal detectors make people afraid. Weapons in school make people afraid. But if we put our focus on the positive and we help those kids that are really struggling, and through our interventions, there are so many things that are being, superintendent has put a lot of resources into Brockton High. Mr. Giotto, myself, and the administrative team, now our task is to coordinate that and get that out where it needs to be. So that is kind of what's been going on at Brockton High in the last couple of weeks, and I look forward to that work continuing. I have great support from central office, a great support from our admin team, and the teachers it feels better in the building. I think the teachers are coming up and they're like, okay, I think we have a plan and we can go forward. So I'm hoping we see that turn around, and that's the direction we're going. So thank you.
And a quick update on the, at the last meeting, you asked about the plastic, the backpacks, the clear bags, and they should be, I just checked with Melinda today, I think they're on order, and it's still a couple of weeks out, but that is a hope too that we can get those in as well. But right now, kids are coming in with their bags, and it's random checks that you're doing with,
yeah, I mean, with the bags, we don't ever want a student to come to the door and say, I couldn't bring my materials into class. So every student who came to the door, nobody had their bag taken away, nobody had their things confiscated. So what we did slow down the process, I'll tell you that, because we needed to be careful. But, and kids are coming around too, they're understanding, okay, I need to come to the door and get my metal into the bag, and then I need to, and then research it, that it is done fairly and equitably across the board so that all students are treated in the same way. And it will become random, and it'll be a deterrent. Because, as a school, we need our focus to be on academics. I can't have kids waiting in line to get in, when, period one has started and they need to be in class. So, again, we're not the TSA, nobody's getting on an international flight, they're coming into school. And these incidents that happened were, very devastating for the school and devastating for the community. Nobody ever wants to hear about a weapon in a school. But we don't want to compound that hurt by taking away from the academic mission and taking away from the kids that do the best they can. So it is a necessary step to be sure that the kids are safe, but we also can't say this is it and never, that will not be the only answer. The real answer is get the school safe, get things stabilized, and then work to help the kids that are making the bad choices. And that's where mentoring and support and data all kind of come together. So we will be doing that hard work and really kind of helping to locate the kids that need us the most. And they're not hard to find. Data can identify them for us, and we will work very hard to do that because they matter just as much as the kid that's coming in every day and doing the right thing. Right? We want to help the ones that need the guidance, and those are the ones that make those choices that lead the school into sheltering in place and evacuating in fire drills. So they need education and they need support, and so that'll be again, that's a priority area.
And just for your information, at the next full school committee, you know how we've tried to provide you what do the focus areas look like in the school. And so we've done some work on what does it look like with effective instruction, what does it look like with active reading and writing. And at the next meeting, Sharon Wolder, who's the Chief Officer for Student Support Services, is going to share with you strategies and what it looks like for positive relationships. So hopefully that will help you all see what, when we talk about these, what does it actually look like? So before we bring up the Zavarian incident, might be a chance if you have
Yeah, just-
questions for Cindy or me or...
One question, one comment, Cindy. The comment came from a lunch girl here at the high school. I'm not sure if the fire alarm incident has calmed down. I remember Mike talking about it last meeting and the meeting before. Her question was, when the kids evacuate the building, they can go to their cars, and when they come back in, they don't have to go through the metal detectors. They can bring anything with them that they want. And to be honest, I talked to Mike about this yesterday, only for a minute or two. He was going to bring it up tonight. He's not here. But is there anything with that? Or are these people, I mean, these kids herded to one area, or can they go to their cars?
So typically in a fire alarm, they don't go to their cars. They're taken to an area of the
Right.
parking lot under the supervision of adults.
Right, they're not
So-
at their cars, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
we're out there with them. Well, not me, but the teachers are out there with them, so.
Right,
if
so-
they- You know, I mean, that's not to say it
Yeah.
couldn't happen, but, you know, but,
No, like I said, I totally understand the question, but when there is an evacuation, any student that went to their car would be brought to the office to be rescreened, if that
Okay,
were the case. But we
That
don't
solves that problem.
Yeah, we don't typically do that, when they're out. So, and then if they're out at lunchtime, the area is scanned before the kids go out to lunch. So we make sure that there's nothing in the vicinity of the school that could be brought back in, so.
And just one other question. The restrooms, has that quieted down?
It has. With the monitors in place, it has definitely quieted down. We are still kind of keeping an eye on the second floor because that is where, again, data shows us where the majority of the problems on the second floor during passing time. So we will examine it again and see if they can be opened up during class time when there are people up there to watch. But, it is an area of concern where filming happened and fights were arranged, and those are the types of things that make the school very, very unsafe. So the superintendent has been great about putting the resources in there to make sure that the bathrooms are monitored and people feel safe going in, because the last thing in the world you want is, and I've heard this from parents, my child is afraid to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom at Brockton High, and that can't be.
No.
That's unacceptable. So we'll put the resources in there, we'll look at the data, and we'll start to see if there's a way to open them up on the second floor if we have to. If we can, that'll be great. But right now, it is working very well with those closed and people using the first floor where the supervision is. But,
Just one other question on the fire alarms. It came to us, and it sounded like there was quite a bit false alarms. The people were evacuated. And just what about a sign, even if it was like this, said you're on camera, at the fire alarm, so they know?
So what
Just to calm it down.
what we actually have put in is their plastic covers that go over the actual alarm. It's like a pull guard, basically. And so in order to you can still pull a fire alarm if there's a real fire, but when you pull up the plastic cover, it sets off a localized alarm, not throughout the whole building. It's like an alarm that goes off, and then anybody that's really pulling it for a false reason would know, oh boy, I'm on camera, I better not be doing this, and it deters, somebody actually pulling the actual
Right.
alarm that sets the whole building out. So those have been installed throughout the building. We had a few in certain areas, but now data again shows us that it's everywhere that it's happening. And so now the pull guard protectors have been installed across the building.
Thank you. Ms. Azak?
Thank you. I just had a couple of comments. So you actually, Principal Burns, you touched base on this in the beginning, that we had a lot of families that were against the metal detectors, but then we had a lot that were for it. And we did hear a lot from students. Students and families actually reached out. And just so they can understand, this happened on a Friday. We met on a Saturday. We had to make a decision immediately before we had a tragedy. So we had to take the steps that we needed to take right away to keep the families and our students and our staff safe. So it's only temporary. We're working through this. So I just want to say that, just so a lot of families understood that, we didn't want to wait till we had an issue, then we're going to fix it. Let's fix it before we had a problem, a more serious problem. So, and again, I looked up yesterday, it's not just Brockton. I believe Bridgewater and I want to say Abington, Monday had issues. And so it's not just Brockton, it's not isolated. It's a lot of the schools are going through the same issues that we're going through. Now, a couple of things, I was trying to find it on my phone. So I love hearing from our students. So we had talked about maybe setting up like some kind of a panel Let the students bring some ideas to us. What do they want? What do they want in the classrooms? What do they want to see? What safety issues are concerning to them? What can they bring to the table? You know, we want to hear their voice. We want to see what they want. So I know we had talked about that, but I didn't know if we were setting anything up. But some kind of a panel, because there was one that just, some of the recommendations, I saw it, I think it was online, and I'm like, these are pretty good ideas. This is really, really,
Right.
really good. And this is coming from them. So this is their voice. They're coming here on a daily basis. We want to hear what they want. So I'll try to find that, because a lot of the, and this was coming from a lot of the students that were here. Great recommendations. So they were definitely thinking outside of the box. And the other one is, I know I sound like a broken record, the assemblies. The more we drill it and explain to them, these are the consequences, they're going to think twice before they start doing. And some of them have. I have seen some of the emails like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. Well, yes, that's a big issue, and you might not be able to stay in our district. So a lot of them don't realize, again, the handbooks, they don't read them. You know, they do, but the majority doesn't. So a lot of them don't realize till it's a little too late. So if we can just, you know, start working on just some basic, but some of the students were talking about assemblies with some motivational speakers. You know, people that have, you know, just get someone out there, start doing that. I think that'll just get them, change the atmosphere a little here. And students, you know, we do offer a lot in Brockton. Definitely offer a lot. And I was at an open house and people came through and they were leaving Brockton. I'm like, why? And it was because of that. And I just said, listen, it's not just Brockton. Your child's in the TAG program. They don't offer that at a lot of places. You know, and we sat and we chatted for a little bit. You know, I don't know if I changed their mind, but it's just, don't just run out and sell your house or go run out and buy a house. I mean, this is an all-around issue. Yes, we're seeing a lot right now, but it's not just isolated. So the student panel was one thing that I had. I think that was it, pretty much. But I just definitely would love to see some of the assemblies. Just get them out there and maybe get some speakers. But see, and I'd love to see that panel. You know, I wouldn't mind having them report to us what they're finding, what they're recommending.
I know Mr. Giotto is working on that, working with kids and creating those, like, basically affinity groups and different groups of kids that can meet together and really talk about, you know, their experiences at Brockton High. And that's one of the things we've been doing, walking around, hey, tell me about Brockton High. I haven't been here in a while. And they're great. They've got great things to say. So I love that idea. We've been kind of working on it. I know Mr. G is doing that. So we'll be more to come on that. Definitely more to report out. And then the assemblies are kind of in progress. But, you know, we have the Veterans Day one coming up, and then we have some different, we have a senior faculty basketball game next week. So we're kind of bringing the fun back to Brockton High. And I think when kids start seeing that, the feeling changes about what it means to be a student in a building at Brockton High.
It is, because it's sad to hear that the students and the families are experiencing anxiety. You know, we don't want our students to have anxiety as they're coming to school. You know, it's you're coming here, you're taking, you know, your classes are probably stressful enough. You don't need to walk through the doors and be stressed out. Am I in a safe environment? So whatever we can do, you know, we'll try our best to just listen to them and see what they need. As far as, like, you know, the social, emotional part of it, we just have to help them as much as we can. And you guys, everyone's doing a wonderful job. It's just, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Well, and I think doing exactly what you said when you were with people is, you know, the change comes from talking to each other. And I think the negative always has a way of drowning out the good. And so the more you can do just what you did, let's talk to the family about what, you know, let's think about this, because what do they hear? They hear some incidents and they get scared, and that's understandable. But that's where everybody can, the change. It can. People need to be relentless about the good, because most kids at Brockton High are and have always been awesome. So.
That brings us to our next matter, because they're always praising Brockton athletes.
Yeah.
When we go to events. So.
Right. So let's shift. This is quick because we don't have too much information at this point, but you're all probably aware of an ugly incident that happened to our students at the Zavarian football game. So it was brought to, I think it was Kevin Caro first, his attention, and then And then Cindy actually met the bus and got on the bus with the kids as they returned. So I'll let her talk about what happened and what we know so far. And she has been in constant contact. We've got statements from all the kids, from our kids, and then she's been in contact with the Zavarian leadership as well.
So, yeah, I got called Friday night by Kevin Cairo, and I came down and I met the bus. And I have to tell you, I met a bus full of kids that are traumatized. They were absolutely in tears, a lot of them. And it was heartbreaking. And when you heard what happened to them, it was the band, the color guard, and the halftime dancers at halftime performing for, for everybody. And they were booed. People made gun gestures with their fingers and were pointing at them, calling them the N-word, calling them homophobic slurs. Sexual harassment, a lot of the girls were being, just by everybody, and it was raining down, and adults heard it and did nothing. So the stories were horrible. I spent over an hour with them Friday night, kind of just hearing them, and I promised them and I assured them that the full district would be behind them and supporting them, and then we did that on Monday. And we met with the students again, and we had Renee Hayward from the EDI office, and Dr. Zakowitz came, and the deans and the assistants, and we had adjustment counselors to put that support in place for them. And they were great. They really wrote statements, and I asked them, I go, please be as particular as you can. We need to know. I know you don't know the kids, but if you remember what they were wearing or where they were standing or where you were. And they were and some of them, he came up with very great statements about this. So I got in touch with the head of school over at Zavarian Brothers, and he assured me, he said the right things, that he's appalled by what happened. He seems to be a very nice gentleman. He seems very contrary to what they teach as a school, what their values are, and he promised a full, cooperation with us. So, he has now copies of the statements. He's going to look at those. He promised to share whatever video he has, because lots of areas of that were, captured on video. So they sent out a message to their community that this had happened. So they're confronting it, and that's all I can ask for at this point. But I'm not going to stop asking that people be found, accountable for what they did, because I have, 20 kids that immediately reported that they were directly, either spoken to by somebody in a derogatory way, and then it affects the entire band. They're a very close-knit group. The band, the halftime dancers, and the color guard, they work together, and a lot of them have worked together for years. So this is not acceptable. It's, again, it happens across the country, but it's disgusting, and it should not ever happen. And there is a very strong voice throughout the district. Mr. Thomas, Dr. Zakowitz, Renee Hayward from the EDI office, and myself. We want accountability, and it needs to happen.
And the other, also, Superintendent Thomas also contacted the MIAA as well and reported it to them. I didn't see Mike later in the day, but as of midday, I don't think he had heard back from Did you know Melinda at all? Had he not heard back? So there's a protocol that MIAA has too, and they also investigate things like that. So we really don't know much more than that at this point, but we felt like we would share what we know at least.
Any questions, Mr. Rodriguez?
Comment on a couple other questions with the other matter. I think it's a privilege for any school in this state to play Brockton High in any sport. I think for a long time, even from when I played, that they kind of, brushed this under the rug. And I think that Zavarian needs to be sent a message with our AD and moving forward, that if we even want to play the school, it's a privilege to play Brockton High in any sport. Specifically, a D1 school.
Right.
I witnessed, some of the comments on social media from parents that were in attendance that witnessed this. It's sad that it's happening, and it's, look what's going on at Southeastern next door.
Right.
And it's across the board, even in New Hampshire, where a relative of mine's a coach. They have a serious issue up there, but moving forward, if we're going to be dealing in specifically the Catholic schools, you figure they'll have a higher standard with their athletics, with their conduct. But I think that needs to be revisited if we even want to entertain playing this team. On the update, where are we with the? I know we move forward, but where are we with? Peer mediation as far as with the students at the high school. I know we're talking about, having assemblies and bringing kids together. I think it's kind of like, a disservice, even though we want to bring the message across to the whole student body, that you're taking the good kids and you're putting them in a room to tell them, like, you can't do this. They already know they're not the problem. How are we identifying the students that are at risk? Where are we with identifying these students, and not, to take a kid out of a class and you have put them in an auditorium and, this kid, straight A's and, no behavioral problems. They're losing their education because you have a small number, we know it's a small number, that's causing all the chaos here at the high school.
So in terms of identifying, again, through Infinite Campus, there are ways to kind of figure out, who's cutting class, who's wandering, who's being suspended. So that group, right? And then we're also going to have an additional data point now that the term has come to an end. So we're going to be able to figure out who isn't passing, because that really is the biggest indicator of where there's a problem and who needs support. So by pulling that data and seeing, okay, well, you failed one class, but we'll have kids that have failed multiple. And when we know that that's going on, those are immediate support points. In terms of peer mediation, we do have a peer mediation program coming, that's there, but it needs to be augmented, and we need to have it be a diverse group of peer mediators to really work with a lot of different segments of the school population. So I've been talking with Mr. Thomas about bringing some additional people on board to train and to, like I said, it's one thing to have one group of mediators, but we are such a large body of students with different backgrounds and different kind of interest points that we need to have that being represented. Particularly need some men to be peer mediators as well. Right now it's primarily females. So I need to get some young men involved. I need to get some, some of our men of color that are on staff to really kind of take on that role. And so we're working with that. One of the programs that we're working on is bringing the box fit program that I talked about at our first meeting, and having, we have a certified boxing instructor, but I have spoken with a couple of people on staff already, because I need people that the kids know and that they kind of can connect with to be those mentors. And so the program will be open to any student that wants to, but we're particularly going to look at those students who are, again, they're the ones that are most likely to need that additional support. So through the box fit program and then the different mentoring programs that are available. But one of the issues that I'm facing right now is that with everything that has come in to the school, there are so many different people that are around that there's really nobody yet to kind of coordinate that and to really create a flow chart of, this is the type of mentor for a student having this issue. This is the type of program for somebody having that issue. So that is what Mr. Guillotot and I are working very closely to kind of pull that all together into something that's workable. So the deans and the assistant deans who work most directly with kids on a day-to-day basis can say, oh, okay, so you've come to my office here. The solution isn't necessarily, oh, here's your suspension, go on your way, because we know that doesn't work. The solution is, get the parent involved and then provide the support. So until we get to that point where we can really coordinate everything in that building, it's going to be hard to do that. So again, talk about priority areas, which should be visibility and accountability. If we have all these people in place, we need to be accountable for what they're doing and make sure that their resources are being used in a way that is most effective. Yeah. So we look at the data, see who needs the help, and then look at the data again, did it work? So that's the process, a data-driven process of student intervention and support.
And I would also add, you mentioned the assemblies. We wouldn't want you to think that the assemblies are what you described, which is sort of yelling at them about what's wrong. It's all, it's helping kids understand what are the resources here, because we've actually had kids, and this goes back to even when I was here, they had no idea there were adjustment councils available. So it's about, we always used to call it success at BHS. So it's not meant to be what what you worried about, which is valid. You don't pull everybody out and then say, and you're all going to be arrested if you do this. And it's really about, this is an awesome place and there's lots here. And, and there's ways to make that a really positive message. But also get across, that we all have to be in this together, and there's consequences for actions and so forth. But it's not meant to be an in-your-face, don't you dare or else. It just doesn't work anyway.
No, I know. I'm not at work, but I know it's not that. But what I mean is loss of time where.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
These students coming out because behavioral. I mean, I was part of the class where they took all the freshmen and put us all in one building, and they learned.
Oh, that was one of the worst ideas ever.
They learned real quick that it wasn't going to work.
No,
and that whole incident happened where you took a bunch of kids and you put them all in the auditorium, and they were all leaving, and it just blew up.
Yeah,
so
that was up there with one of the worst ideas of reorganization ever.
So I asked during one of the Saturday meetings, I would like to see the data with our students where these assaults, male, female, the ratio,
Yeah.
to see, exactly, is it coming from the freshman class? Is it coming from, upperclassmen? And, if it's, our freshman class, we know that they basically missed middle school.
They totally did. You're absolutely right.
So it's just
You're
like
absolutely right.
it's a huge
Yep.
change.
Yeah.
Just coming into
That's
an
a
environment
huge
where
span of
you're
growing
coming,
up.
You're coming from a school with, 1,000,
Yeah.
a little bit less to 4,000 students. It's just like, how do you adjust to that? You'll get lost. I was the same way when I came to the high school. I was like, wow, but I adjusted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have that information, so. Okay,
We 6:30, 6 o'clock?
6. So we're a little bit over.
We're running a little bit over. Anybody, other questions?
Not really a question, just Mr. Rodriguez came up with some really great points. And I know you talked about maybe setting up some clubs, maybe even like a mentorship. Some of the teachers with some of the students that are borderline, sometimes they just need an adult.
Yeah.
Adult male or a female figure just to talk to. Maybe they don't have that at home. They don't have that support at home. So maybe just do that. We're changing lives. One simple thing that we do could change a student's life forever. So, and we do see a lot of those stories. I see them,
Yeah.
because of this program or because of that teacher.
That's right.
They always come back to, this teacher listened to me and look at me now. It's just something as simple as just listening to them and being there for them. We might be able to get a better grasp at what's going on and
One
help them.
caring adult.
That's all it takes.
I know.
That's all it takes. You always see everyone commending their teachers.
That's right.
And if it wasn't for this teacher or the staff member, just listening to me. So I think that was it. I just wanted to make a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Item 2, is there any other business to be brought forward to this subcommittee?
Not really business, but we have tomorrow night. Want to remind everybody?
The football game?
No, the safety meeting tomorrow. Safety. The Leagueburg's tomorrow night.
Oh, for the parents?
Yep. You know that? The parent. Safety.
I can tell, let's just see. Safety parent meeting, Brockton High,
Social media, it's with
6 to 7.
the police department from, was it 6 to 7 here at the
Yeah.
auditorium, Little Theater, actually right here.
Okay.
They're going to talk about the do's and don'ts about social media, parents monitoring and so forth.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else, and a second.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned? Meeting adjourned.
Good evening and welcome to the Facilities Usage and Planning Subcommittee meeting. Before we start our meeting, I want to take a roll call. So Joyce Azak, Chair. Mr. Sullivan? Here. Mr. DiAgostino?
Here.
Okay, so we do have all the members present. If I can just turn the meeting over to Mayor Sullivan for a moment.
Thank you, Ms. Azak. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your service. I also want to congratulate all of the school committee members that got reelected, the 2 new members that will be joining us in January, and of course, the Vice Chair, Mr. D'Agostino, and Ward 1, Mr. Minicello. Congratulations. You'll be leaving the school committee and bringing your talents to the city council. So thank you for what you've done, and really look forward to working with you on that end as well. Tomorrow evening here in the Romm Little Theater, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., Brockton Police are working with Brockton Public Schools will be a social media informational for parents and for students. So I do encourage anybody and everybody to attend that because, again, what you put on social media carries forward forever. And again, I want to thank Officer Nancy Liedberg and her leadership on that as well. And then again, this Thursday is Veterans Day. I want to thank everybody that has served, including Dr. Cobbs, anybody that is actively serving, anybody that has actually gave the ultimate sacrifice, and our thoughts are always with them. 9:30 kickoff. We will be starting at the War Memorial on West Elm Street. The parade actually starts at 10. I would ask any resident that would like to join us on the parade route, but we are a Purple Heart community. We've been designated as such. And Dave Farrell, the Veteran Service Agent, and I will be unveiling a wonderful sign outside of the War Memorial, and then we have them scattered throughout the city of Brockton. So again, we welcome anybody and everybody to join us on the parade, and I want to thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And we don't want to forget tomorrow morning at Brockton High School, we have our Veterans Day presentation. I believe that starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. over in the Fine Arts Theater. So thank you. So back to our Facility Usage and Planning Subcommittee. So agenda item number 1 is presentation of the site development plans for Brockton Neighborhood Health Center's satellite location. And presenting, if you can just let us.
Thank you from the Brockton Neighborhood Health.
Sure.
Director of Operations.
Perfect.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you all. Thank you, committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been invited here to give you a brief overview of the plans for the proposed school-based health center located on the grounds of the high school. I did provide some drawings of which you see up here for your personal use and reference. The proposed clinic, let me see if this laser pointer is working. It's just to the east of this building in that little grass strip. Right there. It'll provide. Oh, I was using the laser pointer. That's okay. It's going to provide primary care, urgent care, and behavioral health services to the high school children of this school only. It's not available for the public to use, and it is not available for patients of Brockton Neighborhood Health Center to use. It is only for the high school students. It'll be of modular construction, and the structure will come in 4 units that will all be tied together and anchored to a precast pier foundation system. It's approximately 3,000 square feet. It'll contain 3 exam rooms, 3 counseling offices, and support rooms for specimen collection, processing, disposal, and general operations and patient care. As far as staffing goes, it'll have an office coordinator/manager, a nurse practitioner, a behavioral health clinician, a licensed practical nurse, and a community health worker. All right. Here's a set of the existing conditions. Again, the clinic should reside right around that point there. And on page 3, the location of the clinic on the grass strip.
Just for your orientation, that's just outside here in the parking lot where you pull up in between, right next to the building here, where there's a container right now for the hydroponic garden. In that little island space there where there's a little garden there, that's where this clinic will sit.
We'll be
So
providing.
it's really right next door outside.
A 3,000 square foot building is going to fit right there.
It does, yes. It's about 48 feet by 64 feet. It will have a handicapped access ramp to the right on the parking lot side, and there'll be an emergency exit and a secondary entry-exit point to the south of the building. We're also going to be installing a walkway that'll lead directly to the building. We chose to have the main entry to the building facing the parking lot, just so that students in class aren't peering out the windows looking at their fellow students coming and going from the clinic. All right. Here is the site plan that we've developed.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. The dimensions of the building you said were about 48 by what?
64.
64. Thank you.
Yep.
It's the same dimensions as we have now, this modular classrooms. You know, it's the same size, the footprint, they connect together on the site, so it's the same footprint, basically. So
Since
just
this-
for, again, for your orientation, that, if you go back, Mike, to the next slide, you can see that's where the parking spots are, and that drive in between in front of the building, that's the main drive to the high school. So that's the administration building, just on the top of the drawing up top. So if you drive down past the administration building and you go past the garden on the end, that island right there is where this clinic will sit.
So this is a one-way, it's the island right there, and then
Correct. That's correct.
That's what I thought. I just want to visualize what
Give you a
we're
good
talking
visual.
about.
I have a better image on another, not on this group of slides, but there's another image on the, that might be loaded up on the computer. It gives you a Google view. So since it is a separate building, we're going to draw our water from the main water line, which runs very close to the edge of the parking lot there. The drain tie-in will be into a subsurface infiltration, water infiltration system. It's equipped to attenuate a 10-year storm event. Electric will be run from this, the Fine Arts Building, from the utility room behind door number 12 over to the clinic. We're also going to run conduit for data and an empty conduit for future use. And the sewer will run from the north of the building into a grinder ejector pump, and then about 50 yards up and connect with the main sewer line before the just before the administration building. We just completed technical review through the city. It went pretty well, and we're expecting to appear before the planning board in December. We are hoping to break ground on the site at some point in December and have the units placed on site by the beginning of February and open to see patients in March. I will be happy to answer, to the best of my ability, any questions you might have.
Yes,
Oh, Mr. Sullivan.
I had one, I didn't catch the very beginning. Who is this for, this clinic?
It is for the students of the high school, and solely for the students of the high school.
So nobody else can get in there? Is that what?
No, it's not open to the public. It's not open to any other patient of the neighborhood health center. It's only for the high school students.
What about the staff?
It's not available to the staff either. It's strictly just for the students to provide primary care, urgent care, and behavioral health services. I'm sure if there's an emergency, someone would run over and assist, but you couldn't receive your primary care there or any other services.
Who's going to be there? Is it going to be doctors or nurse practitioners?
It would be a nurse practitioner. They will oversee all the medical care. There'll be a licensed practical nurse assisting. There'll be a community health worker that will do outreach with the students for social determinants of health supports. There'll be a behavioral health clinician and the secretary, or it's more like a manager to manage the office.
So how would these kids get there? Would
would-
just say to their teacher, I got to go to the doctor?
Most likely it would be by appointment. We're still working on the logistics and operations portion of that. I don't have that answer, but I would assume it would be by appointment unless there's an urgent need for care, and then they can be sent right down.
Like if a student got sick, would they render help?
They could be seen in the clinic.
Well,
if they-
Mr. Sullivan, this does not take the place of the school nurses that we have in place already, and they would go to the nurse's office first, and if there was a need, instead of, typically if they had to go out for care or emergency care, we would have it right here on site instead of having to be transported to the hospital. But that call we made with our nurse staff first, and then at the clinic, and then if they need further care, they would go for the hospital from there.
If I could, just point of information. So, as you all know, we fostered a really good working relationship with Sue Joss and Dr. Maria Celli at the onset of the pandemic. First at the Shaw Center, first actually outside here at Brockton High School when they were doing testing, and then over to Shaw Center testing and vaccines, and that relationship continues. So Sue and Maria had asked Linda Cahill, myself, Dr. Cobbs, and of course Mike Thomas to walk downstairs here. Originally it was planned to be downstairs here where the nursing area was. The whole purpose was to provide exactly what you just said, excellence in medical care to the students, not the staff. but that will not jeopardize or encroach on what the nurses do every day here. If you're sick, you would go, much like a regular school day, down to the nurse. What this amenity is, and now it's going to be outside in this contained area, would be to provide medical and mental health awareness in conjunction with the staff and the clinicians of the Neighborhood Health Center. I do want to thank them. I want to thank you. Sue could have taken this anywhere, but she knew that there was a dire need based upon a sheer population of students here at Brockton High. So great questions, Mr. Sullivan. Any further questions or any comments, Sue and Dr. Celli would be happy to answer those as well. But again, it's the primary care is for the students of Brockton High School. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can just step in for a moment. So, Mr. Jacques, hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly.
You did. Thank you.
Jacques. So how does this fall as far as their personal health insurance? So what if they're out of network by going to this? Have we thought about that? In-network, out-of-network, health insurance? Some students might be under their parents. Some students might not have health insurance. So have we looked into that? Because I know certain people can't go to certain clinics. I can only stay with Compass. I can't go to other, providers with my insurance, just so we're not looking at hefty medical bills because their providers are not covering them.
We do provide we work with a wide variety of insurers, but we will not deny care to anybody, whether they're insured or not. And we will also work with them and their family to obtain insurance. That should not stand in the way of their care. I am not the best qualified person to completely answer that question, as I'm more on the facility side.
Sure.
But Dr. Celli and Sue Joss at the full committee meeting next week could answer all those questions much more thoroughly than I could.
Okay. I mean, obviously, we do have a need, given what a lot of the students, the anxiety and emotional issues that they're going through. So we do have a need, and I'm sure, given the location of it, and it's only open to the Brockton High School students.
Yes.
That's it. So you can continue with your presentation. Anyone else have any questions up to now? Mr. D'Agostino?
I mean, I can wait till you're fully done, that's fine.
I really am done. It was just a brief overview of what our plans are. We wanted to show you the layout, the building, what we're going to be doing to the site, and I wanted to be able to answer any site-related or construction-related questions you might have.
Okay. So, just a couple of things. First of all, I assume, and this may seem like a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. This is something that you all, through your funding that you receive, this building is being funded by that? There's
Correct.
not any money coming from the school budget? Okay.
There's no money from the school budget, 100%
Which I figured, but I
funded
wanted to just check on that.
and maintained by the health center.
All right. And I'm just curious, even though, again, it's not coming out of our budget, but this is more of a curiosity question. What is this going to cost you to put up?
Right now, I'm just over $1 million.
Okay. All right.
Which is not bad for a building these days.
Oh, but I wish it were less.
And so the other question I had, and I think it's a great idea, and it's wonderful that students will be able to maybe not have to leave to go get care, right? Instead of having to be picked up and go to the doctor or what have you, if they want to take advantage of this. But where did the idea come from? I'm just curious, are you seeing a lot of BHS students down at your other clinics? I'm just wondering how we ended up, where the idea came from to put this on site for, exclusively to provide care for the students at Brockton High.
School-based health clinics have been around for decades, and they provide incredible services and supports to the cities and the schools. And the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center has always wanted to develop a relationship with the city and the school to provide a school-based health center to the students of Brockton. We think it can benefit them in so many ways. There are children, at home just not receiving the proper health care, maybe because the parents don't know what to do or where to go with them. COVID has hit the children really hard, and I'm not talking about the physical illness itself, but the mental health the mental health effects it's had on the children. And we think that the school-based health center would be a very valuable resource for the school and the city.
Okay. No, I mean, and like I said, it sounds like a great opportunity for the students. I was just curious how, the idea came up, that's all. So it sounds like this is kind of a thing that's happening all over the country and other places.
It is. Actually, a lot of community health centers spearhead the community, the school-based health centers. Actually, I'm visiting Lynn Community Health Center next week. They have school-based health centers at 3 different schools in their city.
Really?
So we're going to be touring those and checking out their operations.
Okay. And then I was wondering too, so what are the hours? Like, is it only open school hours? Is it open longer than that so that students can come after school?
We expect it to open after the buses have moved out, after the kids are in school, shortly after they arrive. And it will be open after school hours, after the school day closes.
Okay.
It could mimic the health center's hours. It could be open as late as 7 o'clock at night. We haven't determined that yet, and we have to work with the school because the school will have to agree.
Right, okay. And then the other thing I was wondering, and again, who knows if this will even come up, but everybody knows that we've put in for a renovation of Brockton High, and who knows what that's going to look like. But so you're putting this structure in, obviously. How, and that it's modular, I'm thinking that it's probably possible. Let's say that in that process of the renovation of Brockton High, this needed to not be where it is. Is that possible?
It would be a very difficult task to relocate it once it's set.
Okay.
Once it's fastened and anchored to the piers, I'm pretty confident it's there.
So we would need to, whatever, and it's fine, I think it's an important thing for us to know ahead of time that whatever renovation plans then come down for Brockton High, we would need to work around this, basically.
Correct.
If I may, just to speak to that, yes, we first of all, we don't know if we've been invited into the process. Hopefully, we'll be successful to do that, but
Someday, I hope.
once that starts, though, that kicks off the feasibility study with planning and the city and the school department, and everything else, and they will determine, the MSBA, whether or not it will be on the site. It will be a renovation, or they'll build another school somewhere else, or build 2 high schools someplace. We don't have the answer to those questions yet. So suppose that we might have to move this, even if worst case scenario, say we did have to move it, it's in the way of the plans, it's probably 5 to 7 years down the road.
Right. Also a good point, and you make a good point too. The MSBA could come in and say, you're not building here, you're building,
Right.
somewhere, I
Find
mean,
some
I can't
other
imagine
property,
where,
so-
but, again, it's,
And if they're going to fund 80% of it, at a tune up to, what, $500 million, and we'll build someplace else.
right, we'll do whatever they tell us when they're paying that much of the bill.
Exactly.
Okay, no, that's good. All right, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate you coming and putting this together for us, and, but thank you for your time and your candor and answering our questions as best as you can. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. So, Mr. Jacques, I apologize. In the beginning, you had mentioned how many actual positions between nurses, clerical, where would those positions come? Would they come from within, or are they positions that we're going to have to fill?
You don't have to fill any positions. They come from within, from Brockton Neighborhood Health Center.
Okay, so it's not something that we would, perfect.
All the staffing would be employees of the Neighborhood Health Center.
Perfect. And the other thing is, this is just my wiring. Is it all going to be underground? Because we do have a lot of deliveries and stuff, especially on that side. So are they going to run the? Mr. Cobbs is shaking his.
Yep.
Dr. Cobbs, yes. So I was just wondering, just wiring, how are we going to connect that? So
Right
I'm
out
sure
of
we'll have
door
other
12.
questions.
Yep, there's no overhead wiring, comes out of door 12 underground to the site and stubs up into the building.
Okay.
All the other utilities are also underground.
Okay. No, thank you so much. And I'm sure, so you'll be presenting at the school committee next week?
Our CEO, Sue Joss, and our COO, Dr. Maria Celli, will present to the full school committee.
Okay. We don't need to vote on anything. We're good? Okay. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Sullivan?
Just one final question.
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned the students of Brockton High. only? What about the rest of the students in Brockton?
No, it's only for the students of Brockton High because it's on the Brockton High School grounds. I don't know why it works that way, but that's how it works. If we were to want to see students at an elementary school, the clinic would have to be on the site of the elementary school. I might be able to get some more information, or I could talk to Dr. Shelley and Ms. Joss to provide you with some more at the upcoming committee meeting.
Okay, if you could.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
certainly can.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions? Mr. Sullivan, Mr. DiAgostino, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Jacques. So we look forward, Mr. Petronio.
If I could ask.
Yes, sir.
I got my back to you. If a year or two down the line, this project doesn't work out well for you, would you leave that building on site, or would you remove it and take it with you?
Oh, no, I'd give it to you. No, we wouldn't take the building, and I can't imagine it not working. We would absolutely make it work.
So that actually brings me to a question. So who owns the building? Would you own the building, or is it because it's on our land, we own, I know that's a technical, but do we own it or do you own it? And would we have to put some kind of access legally, because you have your building on our property?
Right. The owner on record at the moment is the city of Brockton. I am not sure how we're going to work that when we
Okay.
come to actually opening and licensing the clinic. But as far as access, it would only be myself and my staff accessing just that building, no other area of the school.
Okay.
Fire alarm, burglar alarm notifications would not only go to myself, but we would hope go to your campus police department as well. And I would be happy to work with them.
Sure. And one quick question, insurance. Would you guys cover the insurance for that building? Or are we, I know these are all technical questions, but God forbid somebody hurts themselves.
Again, point of information, Neighborhood Health Center would indemnify us, much like they did with the services at the Shaw Center, which is a city asset as
Okay.
well. Attorney Mello, on behalf of the schools, Attorney Megan Bridges, on behalf of the city, will be working with the lawyers on behalf of Neighborhood Health Center, contemplating an MOU or an MOA, long-term land lease agreement. But in terms, because we're self-insured as a city, of course, they're going to indemnify us for anybody that gets injured on that property.
Okay.
I think Mr. Petronio made up a good point as well. I mean, there should be a right of reversion. That property being on our grounds, if and when it does cease to operate, it should revert directly to the city. So again, Attorney Mello Peter's been awesome. He's a Brocktonian, so they'll dot the i's and cross the t's. But with Sue being here next week and Dr. Shelley, we can answer some of these further questions. But great points, Ms. Azak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jack. Sorry to put you on the spot. It's just,
No,
I know there's a lot of
that's
questions that people are
quite
going to be
okay.
asking after seeing this, and then I'm sure we'll have more questions for next week, but thank you for all the information. I don't believe anyone else has any more questions. Okay, I thank you so much for your time and the presentation.
All right,
And thank you to Neighborhood Health for thinking of Brockton, to bring this to Brockton High School.
Thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoy your evening.
Perfect, thank you so much. All right, we are going to, agenda item number 2, overall reports on projects, and I believe that's Dr. Cobb's.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm not, this is a long list that I provided everybody. I'm not going to go through all of these, and spend a lot of time, but these are just kind of the highlights of the projects that we've got going on or have completed. And the top of the list, number 1, the Huntington Roof project is substantially complete as of October 14th. I'm not sure if you remember way back when we were in the bidding process, the initial budget from the MSBA was $2.9 million. And the project completed at $1.7 million. We did have some extras and we had some credits for other things, and as well, in that $1.7 million, we actually did repair part of the sidewalks that were already damaged, but because of the lifts that they had to use were damaged a little more, so we worked out with the contractors to replace a substantial amount from the back of the parking lot to the front of the building. So punch list items, the job site is cleaned out. I have actually pictures of the roof area, photographs of the new roof, but it's in great shape, and now we can go ahead and move forward to other projects.
Thank you. So, Mr. DiAgostino, finally, I think after 6 years, your roof is ready at Huntington. So
It's done.
I can see your face, just like, I believe it was a little bit 6 years ago, we toured a few of us, we took a tour of Huntington. So you got your roof done while on the committee, so yes.
And
Dr.
just, again,
Cox?
keep in mind with the price, the $1.7 million, 80% is paid by MSBA. So it worked out well. And it's just because contractors did a great job. We had weekly, job meetings and they moved forward to all our concerns very well. So now we have many projects. So you see further down the list, we have many indoor projects to do now that the roof is tight and the site is cleaned up. So. Next thing that's been completed is we now have a full load, full building capacity generator for the central office downtown, which is significant because, that's where all of our IT, mainly for the school system, all of the, the internet and everything else goes through there. So if we lose power there, it's down. So now we don't have to worry about that because it's online and we've tested it out and it's good to go. So we're obviously from the last storm that we had already planned the next generator installations for South Middle School and the Ashfield Middle School. But we had a list of 9 buildings that we lost power for days, and close to Barrett Russell was the last one to be online. So that's a good list that I'll be working from to prioritize the next installations of generators. So within the next couple of years, probably we'll get those done and installed. So as long as we have the inventory to get them installed. Next big project is we're out to bid with an RFP for the engineering for the HVAC system for the Downey School. I'm not sure if you're all aware, but that school is 100% electric heating for the building. So it's a major construction project, HVAC. That the bid went out. It will require installing a major gas line from someplace, probably out in the Thatcher Street area, or where the Massasoit is, or from it's probably a 6-inch gas main like this building to supply enough gas pressure for that type of system for the whole building. It might require adding on to the building to build out a utility room for all the equipment to be installed, and then we have to go to every classroom through the whole building, install ductwork and piping. So it's a major construction project. So when I say RFPs, the RFPs that we're writing now are going out for the engineering and plans and design for all these projects. And then once we get the engineered stamped plans, then we'll go forward with bidding them out for the actual construction projects with a project manager.
So Dr. Cox, throwing this out there, where Downey's is all electrical. I know sometimes we run into, they've come a long way with the mini splits. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but it might be less work than trying to put a whole new in duct work and all that stuff. Maybe looking at some of the split units.
Again, those are really high electricity costs. I had another person ask me about using heat pumps and those things. They draw a lot of electricity, and with those types of systems, when it gets so cold, what happens is they have inline duct heaters that are electric heaters. So you're not really gaining anything by that. So. The most efficient system is either like a water chiller system that's like here and with gas fired to. And the plumbing, the associated plumbing and ductwork that goes with it.
I know years ago we talked to Mr. Petronio about potentially looking into solar. So I know we looked at it years ago. Maybe things have changed, but that's a totally different subject. So
well, it might be useful for a backup system for some of the power draw because even a gas-fired system still has pumps and chillers and everything else that will draw electricity, but they'll be much more efficient. So with that RFP, actually, we're also going to have them evaluate all the other school buildings for the HVAC systems for the efficiency, and it may, again, if we need to increase, capacity at some of those systems or replace some of the rooftop units, that'll be an assessment that'll be done as part of this RFP. But the other RFP that's out, actually, we have to enclose the pods. We still have 3 schools that we have to enclose the pods, the classrooms, and divide the classrooms up. So those will be done with in-house assets this summer. So we'll get those done because we have kind of beefed up our trade staff. So those will get done. Again, now that the roof is down at the Huntington, we have an RFP out for the gymnasium to be completely rebuilt, remodeled, and pretty much gutted and rebuilt. Windows, floors, painting, walls, new lighting systems, sound systems, fire alarm systems, PA system. So that's already out and published. That closes when's that one close? I forget. I want to say the 26th, so it seems like there's a lot of them closing on the 26th. They want to build a culinary arts lab in the basement, so we have an RFP out for that. I've gone through and walked through it, so that's going to require, quite a bit of work for, the ducting system, for the cooking, sewer, there's 4-inch sewer line that goes, we have to dig up part of the building underneath and tap into the sewer line. We have to put in new electrical panels. It may actually require an upgrade to the electrical panel system because it's only an 800 amp, electrical system for the building. Across the hall from that is a woodworking shop that Principal John wants to put in there, and same thing, a new electrical panel, a lot of equipment, exhaust equipment for all the sawdust and collection, and so that's, but the RFPs are out for that, and hopefully we'll get the RFPs are out for engineering and design for the projects, and then it'll go out to bid from there, so. We're in the process of, in the last year or two, actually, throughout the pandemic, we've been working on upgrades to the Wi-Fi system, intercom systems, phone systems, security cameras, radio system across the district. So the infrastructure is being built up and repaired. It has been ongoing for the last 2 years. Certainly now with the new infrastructure money coming in, the problem is there's lots of money. The problem is, no matter how much money you have, trying to get materials and get tradespeople to do the work is a problem. Everybody's got money, but nobody can find the materials and the people to do the work. We'll get it done. Again, a lot of it will be done with in-house assets, but we do contract a lot. Modular classroom locations, we're estimating there's 8 locations, so 3 of them, they have to be demolished at the Downey, the Ashfield, and the Kennedy. Well, Kennedy we're going to add on to that one, they're going to demolish that one. But we're looking at an estimated, probably, I think with that $8 to $10 million we're looking at to, but we'll end up with 29 additional classrooms, 40 total modular classrooms, so. If you put that in perspective, our typical school building has about 36 classrooms. So we have 40 modular classrooms at about $8 to $10 million. We couldn't build a school that cheap. So you can kind of look at it that way. So it works out to be between $150,000 to $200,000 per classroom, basically. These will be modular trailers, and they'll come with the configurations that we have is a whole trailer that's bathrooms, basically, so the public bathrooms for the students for the staff, there's a janitor's closet in it, I think there's 5 to 6 bathroom stalls on each side for boys and girls, so it's pretty complete, and these will be complete with that price. It includes all the engineering, the design, the stamp drawings, the building permits, the site utilities, a complete installation, and the demolition of 3 different sites. So that's why we estimate between $8 to $10 million, and that's on the high side, we think. Other projects that are going that we have to do RFPs for, we have the central office roof, which is leaking like a sieve, central office windows, which they are numerous and very expensive, particularly the ones with the big round arch shapes and the ones in the cupola up on the top. Those are really custom-made woodwork designs, and we have to take into consideration that the building is in the National Historic Register, so we have to restore it using like materials or similar materials that have to go through an approval process by we don't have an acting right now, still Brockton Historical Society, so we have to go to the Massachusetts Historical Society to approve any things so it's going to be a long process to get that done, but the RFP will require engineering services as well as project management services to see the project through. It's probably going to be a 2 to 3 year process to get that done. RFPs are looking for additional classroom space and general use office space, so an RFP will go out for that. I think we're just about finishing that one up. The permanent location for the transportation office and the bus parking, an RFP will eventually, once, we find some locations, a permanent location for the promise school, which both of these now at the fairgrounds, in Brockton Fairgrounds, permanent location for the new virtual learning academy. Right now, it's located at North Middle School because next year we'll fill those other classrooms with, a new sixth grade class will come in, so we'll have sixth, seventh, and eighth grade there next year. So this year we have those classrooms available to use, not next year. And then we had a discussion this morning at the executive team meeting that June Saber brought up a great point. It's like, now that we're going to have money and we're going to have the pre-K all day long, we have to put them somewhere. We're going to have a whole school full of young students so basically we have to have another school someplace that we have to find for the early childhood center. So those are the projects that are in the works, and many other, with the facilities department that we're working, we put up a lot of walls for classrooms and done a lot of the work, again, in-house over the summer and ongoing. So most of those things are getting done. We plan on putting on more craft people, staff, and tradespeople, so we'll continue to do more and more in-house as we go and hopefully try to contract out less, but in the essence of time, and again, some of these projects, this early childhood, we may have to have in place for next year. The Promise School, we need a place for next year. The Virtual Learning Academy, we need a place for next year. So these are kind of urgent needs. So any questions on any of those?
No, it looks like we have a lot going on, as always. So facilities is, thank you for always being very thorough as far as presenting what's going on at the different schools. So, Mr. D'Agostino, did you have a question? Yes.
Just a few things. And first of all, obviously, Ms. Asak, even with my mask on, you could see my very big grin, ear-to-ear grin about the roof at the Huntington. And as we've said all along, getting that done will enable other projects which are on this list, the gymnasium, culinary arts lab, woodworking shop. These are great things that, again, now that the building is in more solid waterproof condition, we can start to do some of the work inside the building that is long overdue. That, you don't want to put a beautiful new gym floor in when the roof's going to leak all over it, right? So I'm really thrilled about that. Yes, it took a long time to get done, but it's done. So I'm really happy about that. Check that off. I'm really thrilled. So this 1.7, that's the final.
That's the final. With all the change. We had 5 change orders, and some of them we actually had credit back, but other ones, and it took a little longer, obviously, due to storms, and we had the Historical Society that we had to. For some reason, the Massachusetts Historical Society, the only way they communicate is through snail mail, written mail.
Jesus Christ.
Not online, not through phone calls. They send a letter, we send a letter back. Weeks later, they send a letter back. It took forever. And then, of course, we had delays due to getting construction materials, and then, of course, the weather. So all in all, it was supposed to end up finishing around late August or so, but so not too bad, all things considered. They were very efficient on the roof. So. But yeah, 1.7 is the final. It's like 1.712 and some change, basically.
Who says the government can't do something under budget?
It worked out very well, very, very efficient.
1.2 under budget. That's great. That's great.
Exactly.
Moving along, let's see. So on here, we go down to H and I, we talk about intercom and phone system upgrades. Is that here in this building? I know we've been doing a lot of work on those systems.
We've replaced all the intercom equipment here. There's still bugs we're working out with it to make them more talk to each other better. But all the major hardware has been replaced here in each house, and now we're just working out more bugs, and then they want more functionality out of it, essentially. So
right.
They're still working through some things, but it has been completely replaced here.
Right, okay. And just because this is something someone mentioned to me for a clarifying point, there have been comments like, oh, the teacher grabbed the phone in the classroom and couldn't dial out. Right, those are internal phones only in the classrooms, correct?
Right, but they'll call they'll function to call either house or the main office or enter classrooms, so they will.
So if if your student's teacher is calling from some, their office or some office, or it's not because the phone in the classroom doesn't work. The phone in the classroom never calls out of
right.
the building.
It's not a regular dial out,
Right. Right.
phone system now.
Okay. Are there other buildings
So
that are
certain
getting those?
places there are, nurses' offices and the
Right.
counseling offices, those will dial out.
Right.
Beside the
There's,
building, but
you know,
not the typical classroom phone, no.
Right, the offices and, you know, maybe department head
Yeah,
offices, stuff like
or
that.
here in this building, or, in certain office spaces, yes. Yeah.
Right. Intercom and phone upgrades, are there those happening in other buildings outside
Yeah,
of BHS?
absolutely,
as
across
well?
the district, these are all infrastructure upgrades to the system completely, absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. All right, very good. Moving on a little bit more, let's see. So the modular classrooms, you mentioned that some of them are actually going to be fully torn down and replaced.
Right.
Which is great, because I know some of them, I want to say 10 or so years ago, we did some in-house, with our own in-house people, we did a substantial amount of work on them to extend the life well beyond what they were ever intended for.
Right. And
So-
they've served their useful life,
Yes,
absolutely.
they don't owe us anything, we've,
Ashfield, the Downey, and the.
Kennedy.
The Kennedy most of those are fairly new, they'll stay, we're gonna augment those with additional units, actually.
okay. And I do want to give some credit to State Representative Jerry Cassidy,
Yes.
who got us some money towards the Kennedy modulars, as well as Hancock, too. So I want to thank him for helping us with the funding for some of that.
Hancock, those will be demolished at the Hancock, with their older units, yeah.
Okay, so Hancock will get a new one, and,
Downey and Ashfield.
okay, great. So some new ones, some renovations to some existing ones that are still able to be updated, and that's great. So that's awesome. And then this last one, so the Early Childhood Center, and again, this is something that kind of started early in my term, and I'm happy to see where it has come as I'm departing the school committee. It started with the conversation about, 4-year-olds in kindergarten, and that wasn't the best way to go, and that rolled into rolling out of pre-K, and now to see, what we started with was just a half-day program, try it out, let's roll it out slowly, see how it goes, to now we're looking to be able to have 1,100 to 1,200 pre-K.
Full school, exactly.
A full school of pre-K. I mean, just to see where that's come from when we first started 6 years ago, that's excellent. So I wanted to, my final point on all of this, too, by the way, with all this going on, you are a busy man. Managing all this.
Indeed.
So thank you to you and the facility staff and Aldo and everybody else who's involved that I'm not thinking of in all of this work, our craftsmen. I mean, there are a lot of hands on deck here to get all this work done.
It's always busy. Like I said at the last time we had a meeting, we've been running all the time. We're running in the background. It's like when you turn your computer on, you're using whatever application,
Right.
the background is what keeps it running all the time.
Well, thank you to everybody,
We never stop.
who's involved in this, because it's a lot
It
of
is a
work.
great team. It's a great, the facility staff and the operations staff, and Aldo in his office. We work hand in hand all the time. I probably spend as much time in his office as I spend in my own office, but we work all the time,
Right.
seriously. I mean, we get it done. I'm very proud of the staff we had in the operations and facility staff. They're a pretty amazing group.
Right. So my final thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the funding of this. So I know when we do projects with the MSBA, that's usually an 80-20 split. So there's obviously some local funding in some of these projects. But would it be fair to say that a large chunk of this stuff is coming from ESSER funds and?
ESSER 3, the $34 million, it's kind of wide open as to what we can use it for, but we're going to use it, let's say half or more than half towards education and the other half towards facilities upgrade and maintenance. I told the superintendent that as we get going, it may shift more towards facilities maintenance, because I don't think the education piece is going to cost us as much, only because we have Student Opportunity Act funds that will be
Right.
flowing in. I'm hearing that my Title I will be going up and some other grants will be available, so we might be able to, like I said, shift more of this towards these repairs
Okay.
that are, needed system-wide, and especially like Dr. Cobb said, the generators. If we can keep schools going, we can keep kids in school, we can keep things happening, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important for our, our community, our taxpayers here in Brockton, to know that, a lot of this money is coming from federal funds, which obviously ultimately is also taxpayer money, but versus, local property tax money, I think that's an important point that we're, not that there's no local money in some of these projects, but it's, the majority of it is state and federal, right?
Exactly.
Is that a correct
Another
thing
thing
to
to
say?
consider, I'm not sure you're all aware that the state of Massachusetts is they're well ahead of their revenues, $2.1 billion or something ahead of revenues on the year. So that, for us, that means that it's likely that the Student Opportunity, funds will be fully funded. The Student
Right.
Opportunity Act will be fully funded, and that's, what does that bring in for us in a year if they fully funded?
This year brought us in 18 of the 22 million that we received, so I'm hoping next year, anywhere from 15 to 18 million. If they continue on their course, their promise of getting our funding to the level it should be.
Right.
So, we've taken on a lot of new expenses this year. I would say just increasing our budget, 10 million of that would go there. So if we have an extra 5 million on top of that, that's wonderful.
Right. And that's, the SOA money is great because it's not going towards these facilities things. That's
Right.
programs, that's right in the classroom with the
Exactly.
kids, additional staff and teachers and paras and
Exactly.
all of the, curriculum, all of the things we've needed for a long time that we haven't been able to do.
Right.
That finally, with the SOA, the state has stepped up and is over time properly funding us so we can do those things. And as it works out, the feds are helping us out here for a lot of this facility stuff that's long overdue.
Long overdue.
So no, that's great. Well, again, thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. DiAgostino. And actually, a quick comment is now we're able to grow the program over at the Huntington.
Right.
That school holds, 500 students? So now we'll be able to grow that program. So Mrs. Sullivan had a question or a comment?
One quick question. The permanent locations for the transportation, the Promise School, are you looking to buy something or build something or lease something?
Ultimately, it'd be quicker, obviously, if we could buy something, than trying to go through the process of building, which will take several years. If, we're looking for local real estate that we can buy out, or the school, the city can acquire. So that's ultimately the quickest, otherwise we'd have to, we could build ourselves, we could find a site, we could demolish one of the old schools and build a new building of some type, but it's not likely to go through the MSBA process if that's the case, because that will delay it for several years if we do that. So it'll be local funding if we had to go and build something.
Just a yes or no answer. I know you don't want to divulge anything, but do you have ideas in your mind of what you're actually going to do as far as?
Aldo and I and myself and Ken Thompson, we've been pounding the pavement literally all around Brockton for the last 2 years. There are some sites that we've identified that we could either purchase and use and convert for what we needed to do, or if we had to, identify some sites that we could actually build on, So, yeah, we have some ideas, and that's why we're in the RFP process to see which way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Ultimately, we want to get out of leasing spaces because it's not a long-term solution for what we need.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's it.
we do have RFPs that are going out for some of those locations to try to help. It's for what we need. It's going to be a special fit, I guess. So,
Right.
so they do have, it's under the RFP projects. So I know that they're going to be doing those shortly
Yep.
and posting those.
We're pumping out, 2 or 3 RFPs a week, it seems like right now.
Yes,
Seriously,
exactly.
with Mike Aldo and Mike Bandis and myself, where, as soon as we can get them, written and properly formatted, out they go. So. But, it takes, particularly for real estate, we have to post it for a month, right? So,
Exactly.
So if the even leasing real estate, it's a lengthy process, even getting to the RFP process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Any other questions? So it looks like we covered pretty much a lot of the questions that we would have had, because I know Mr. DiAgostino had asked some of my questions or made comments.
Very
So thank you, Dr. Cobbs. If that's it for item number 2 on the agenda, then we can move on to item number 3, which is discussion and vote regarding recommendations to the school committee with respect to the acquisition and use for school purpose of property located at 596 Summer Street, Brockton, in accordance with Section 34 of the City of Brockton Charter or other applicable law, and B, the transfer of operations of the Keith Center from its current location located at 175 Warren Ave in Brockton to 596 Summer Street in Brockton, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 15A, or other applicable law. So we actually have Attorney Peter Mello here with us. So Attorney Mello, welcome. And if you wanted to just give us a little bit of an update as to item number 3.
Sure. So thank you, Chair Asak. Despite the encyclopedic nature of the agenda description, it's relatively straightforward, actually, as a procedural matter. Section 34 of the city's charter requires that before the city acquires property for school purposes, that the school committee take a vote to approve it. And separately, as you may know from past transactions, when the school committee transfers its control or relinquishes its control over property that it uses for school purposes, a couple of procedural votes are required by both the school committee and at the city council level. So to lay the groundwork, so to speak, for the city's acquisition of property at 596 Summer Street that would be used for school purposes, the thought was that this subcommittee should make a recommendation to the full school committee, which would vote, next week if, subject to the subcommittee's recommendation. I guess I would defer to others with respect to any questions that relate to non-procedural, logistical or policy-based issues. I'm happy to address any questions, but basically what's happening is this subcommittee is making a recommendation to the full school committee about 3 or 4 action items. Namely, 1, the city's acquisition of 596 Summer Street pursuant to Section 34 of the city's charter. 2, the relinquishment or the transfer of operations basically from, I'm sorry, this it's a little feedback on this mic. Yeah. I know, is it because I have a mask? I don't. Okay. 2 would be the transfer of operations from 175 Warren Avenue to 596 Summer Street, and the approval of the use of 596 Summer Street for school purposes. And, associated with that, I guess, is this is very technical, but the relinquishment of the school committee's control over 175 Warren Avenue once operations are fully transferred over to the property at 596 Summer Street, and once that property is being used for the Key Center.
Any questions? Fine. So we're just looking for a motion to move this over to next week's committee as a whole. So the
Yeah.
subcommittee is making a recommendation for the school committee.
Right, and I tried, and I first of all tried to condense it into one motion in as efficient and seamless a fashion as I could conjure up. But yeah, basically this is a vote, and I provided the proposed motion language that would recommend the full school committee's approval of those basically 4 action items pursuant to Section 34 of the city's charter and the statute that we've identified in the motion is General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 15A.
Okay. So, Mr. D'Agostino, did you have a question, or did you want to make the motion?
I was going to make the motion as prepared by Attorney Mello. Thank you for this, by the way. So I move that the Facilities Usage and Planning Subcommittee vote to recommend that the school committee approve the following actions. In accordance with Section 34 of the City of Brockton Charter, General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 15A, or other applicable law, A, the City of Brockton's acquisition and use for school purposes of property located at 596 Summer Street, Brockton, Mass. B, the school committee's acceptance of the charge, custody, management, and control of such property for school purposes. C, the transfer of operations of the Keith Center from its current location, located at 175 Warren Ave, Brockton, Mass., to 596 Summer Street, Brockton, Mass., and D, the school committee's determination that upon such transfer of operations, the school committee shall no longer need 175 Warren Ave for school or other purposes.
If I can take a roll call vote, Mr. DiAgostino,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
I need a second.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, a motion to, we need a second, I apologize.
Second.
Second, okay, so roll call vote, Mr. DiAgostino,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So motion is unanimously a yes. Anything under new business?
I have one question.
Sure, Mr. Sullivan.
Aldo, I'm not sure you can answer this to the neighborhood health center. Is that something you can answer now, or do you want to wait?
Depends on what the question is, I'm not sure.
Well, the question is, I heard them say they're going to build a building, $1 million building.
Yes.
Are they going to pay rent for the use of the land? Or how does that work?
I don't know exactly. The mayor kind of said something like they'll have the ability to put the building there. And I don't know if it's going to be $1 a year or what they're adjusting for rent. But the fact that they said they're going to leave the building for us, so it becomes our building. A lot of times in commercial real estate, you will leave your building as your rent. You know, you're there for, let's say it's a 20-year deal or a 30-year deal. At the end, the building is acquired by the property owner. So it
Well-
could be something like that, but I don't know what the mayor spoke to them about.
Yeah, they were talking about electricity coming out of door 12. So you're going to be providing that, and they got parking, high school
Correct.
parking.
Correct. But again, it's supposed to be for our students. So the
Yes.
parking is a few of them, but it's supposed to be a service for our students. So like I said, I think the attorneys are going to work out the details on that. But I don't know what the mayor's intention is as far as whether or not he's going to just do a $1 a year lease, and in the end, we own the building.
Okay?
I think they might have more information next week for you, Mr. Sullivan. If maybe we can get some questions prepared for them ahead of time, and then I know that they're going to be presenting, so that might be a way that they can answer some of those questions. I mean, it's a wonderful idea that they're going to offer that to our students, but we all have a lot of questions, and I'm sure there'll be more questions after tonight's meeting. But is that it? You're good? Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
No, any further questions? We're good. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. DiAgostino. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.